Anyway, you had something else?
Well, I just wanted to assure my Reeds people that I did not slap him and tell him he could not buy that watch. That was for theatrics. That did not happen.
Today we're talking about purchasing watches pre-owned. It's definitely something that when I first got back into watches, I did not think about at all. I wanted to buy brand new. And maybe 30, 60 days into my journey, I realized very quickly that I was missing out and kind of really not able to pick up some of the pieces that I could by just not looking in that area. Zach, tell us a little bit about that way of purchasing watches.
Sure. So, first off, I think it's worth saying that, you do not want to sleep on purchasing pre-owned watches. There are a ton of models out there, whether they're no longer in production or, vintage altogether, or just watches that, you love, but for whatever reason, maybe it's a $15,000 watch and one day you can pick it up for $6,000 and that hurts a lot less. So you've got a lot of avenues for that. First off, your local jeweler most likely has some sort of pre-owned showcase. So, if you've already got a relationship built up with them, it's definitely something that you can look at. You've also got places like Chrono24. You've got, eBay. They even have an authentication program through eBay now where you've got some protection as a buyer. You've got Facebook, for instance. You've got a lot of groups in there. In fact, Rob, I know the Hamilton Khaki mechanical that you're wearing today. I want to say I came across in a sub 1,000 watch trader group, and we were sitting at the table over there doing a pre-production meeting or something, and you snap it up. And I want to say you probably bought that for less than a third of what retail would have been. So there's definitely some great opportunities to get value and to get into watches that are out of production. Like my favorite Oris, the Aquas Maldives limited edition, was a 1-year production run, and I added it to my collection a full, 14 years after it was produced. But I adore that watch, and I'm so glad that I did. So Rob, why don't you you explain what we're doing here today?
So today, Zach and I both picked 5 watches each that were sub $500 on the pre-owned market. And some, brand new may have been just over 500. Some of them were way over that price range. Some are just out of production. And, there's a couple on this list that I absolutely love and want to add to my collection one day, but, they've not been made for 15 years or so. So you really don't have any option but to go, pre-owned over that. So we'll start off with my first watch. This is a very popular watch. Actually, my son, this is probably his favorite watch, but a Seiko 5 Sport GMT Blueberry. And we found one box and papers for $303, and brand new it is $495. So that's a huge percentage-wise savings on a fantastic watch. It comes in a 42.5 millimeter case. It has a 4R34 movement, 41-hour power reserve, and 100-meter water. It's Will's everyday watch. He wears that watch whether he dresses up or dresses down or goes outside and plays or is inside. He loves that watch. With the water resistance like it is and the case size being very legible, he loves that watch. Zach, what's your first one?
So my first watch was the Hamilton Spirit of Liberty. So I was able to find one, full set, box papers, $500, and that was versus an original MSRP of $1,195. So, less than half. And by the way, the watch that I found had a warranty card dated from 2024. So we were talking, roughly a year old, and less than half the retail. So it was, that particular one was a great opportunity to pick up on a great deal. It's 42 millimeters, 50 meters of water resistance. It's powered by the Hamilton H10 movement, which is based on an ETA caliber, but they slow the beat rate down, and you're getting an 80-hour power reserve on that watch because they've slowed down the beat rate. So, you know, it's weekend proof essentially. But a nice kind of dressy watch. The one that I found does have the, I want to say they call it champagne dial, but you know, it's just a cool watch in general. The strap is hand patinated. It's got a quote from Andrew Hamilton on it that says, "Without liberty, life is misery." And Andrew Hamilton is actually the namesake of Hamilton. So he was the original owner of the land that the Hamilton factory was built on. And he was also one of the founders of Lancaster, Pennsylvania back in the 1700s. So, you know, it's just a neat tie-in to the heritage of Hamilton. And it, you know, right at $500, I mean, it was a heck of a pickup. So, Rob, what was yours? Next one.
So my next one brings us to one of the moon watches, and it's the Bulova Lunar Pilot. I like the black dial, and we found one for $500 on the dot with box and papers, and new it's $895. It does wear a little bit smaller, as quite a few watches do, than the case size, but it does have a case size of 43.5 millimeters. It does have 50 meters of water resistance, and it is quartz. But, you know, Zach and I were in conversation earlier today, and we were thinking about younger, you know, watch enthusiasts and people first getting into watches, and we have to look out for those guys too. And we're thinking, man, you know, I get if you're a younger person or you just don't have the means, you may be in your 40s or 50s and just don't have the means to buy a Speedmaster, right, or some of the other options. Totally understand that. But this is a beautiful watch, which I'm sure you just saw on B-roll, for, you know, you can get for $500 and kind of have that same feeling of, hey, this thing did make it to the moon. And so it's definitely on a short list of one I want to also purchase for my son at some point. And it is quartz, but at the end of the day, I think it is a great starter watch, shall we say, for the whole the moon side of the watch collecting. So that would be my next one, yeah.
Yeah. So my next choice was the Seiko Presage SRPK 75, or the Purple Sunset. And it just, you know, again, like I'm a dress watch kind of guy. A lot of my stuff is going to be a little bit dressier, but it's just a beautiful gradient dial. I mean, it has some character. You know, it's themed after a famous cocktail at the Star Bar in Tokyo, as is everything from the cocktail timeline. But great opportunity to pick it up. It was a limited edition. It's no longer in production. I found it for $469 with the full set, box, papers. Original retail was $525, but again, they made so many and then they were done. So it's not much less than retail, but to get a limited edition that's sold out for below retail is not the easiest thing to do. Nope. So that watch is 40.5 millimeters, comes on a leather strap, 50 meters of water resistance. It runs on the 4R35 movement, which has a 41-hour power reserve. And it was 9,000 pieces that they released, so it was quite a few. But again, I have not been able to find a new one for sale anywhere on the Seiko websites. So Rob, what was your next one?
My next one is to a company that we talked about briefly a few minutes ago. We're both wearing Hamiltons today, and you just mentioned one. And that's a Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. Absolutely love this watch, and obviously it's a huge fan favorite, and that's for a reason. I mean, most people, if you like field watches at all, or you're someone in construction, or you're someone that is outdoorsman, or you're someone that, you know, is outside or beats and bangs around watches, it is a go-to watch. Absolutely love that watch. We found one for $445 as a full set. It retails closer to $800. I like the 42 millimeter because that's kind of my sweet spot. It does have the H50 movement in it, and that gives you 80 hours power reserve. and 50-hour water resistance. So I like the Khaki field. I think that's just a definite go-to. You can get the, that's the mechanical. You can get the automatic. It's going to cost you just a little bit more. But the mechanical does give you that personal side of, hey, we're going to wind this thing up every day, and we talk about that a lot. But for guys that matters to, it is a nice little touch to be able to be a closer part of their watch every day. So what's your next one?
Just to jump on that though,
Okay.
50-meter water resistance. We do promise
What did I
after
say?
50 hours in the water, it's still going to be able to resist some moisture. So don't worry about that.
That's good.
But no, it's an iconic watch.
It
You know,
is.
when you talk about truly iconic watches, sub $1,000, at least from Swiss brands, there's not very many out there. The PRX has made itself one now,
Yeah.
for sure. But beyond the PRX and then the the Khaki field, there's just not a ton that come to my mind. And I mean that one, you can't help but touch on the heritage. I mean, that is a watch that initially was issued to our troops during World War II. So it was 33 millimeters at the time. So now it's up to 38 millimeters. So it's a little bit larger, a little bit more modern. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's a watch that proved itself, out there on behalf of the United States. So it's rare to be able to get into something that has that kind of history and is that much of an icon for that sort of dollar amount. So
Totally agree.
yeah, so great choice for sure. So my next choice was the Citizen Promaster Mechanical Diver, and this is a watch. This is actually, I want to say, one of maybe two watches that we're going to talk about all day that I've actually had the pleasure of personally selling. But when that watch came into the store in Huntsville the first time, I was truly impressed. I mean, this was a, sapphire crystal, titanium automatic dive watch on a rubber strap that had a kind of a tactile feel to it. Like it's an impressive watch. I really, really enjoy it. And the price point on it, whether we're talking pre-owned or new, is still impressive. But I found one of these for $459 with box and papers. Original MSRP is $825, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Citizen allows its retailers to sell it on sale for, I want to say, mid 500s, maybe low 500s. So if $50 isn't worth it to you to get a pre-owned versus a new one, perhaps you just get the new one for less than $600 for sure. But it is a great watch. It's got Citizen's 9051 movement with a 42-hour power reserve, and it's based on a watch called the 150-meter Challenge Diver that they were producing in 1977. So it's got a little bit of a vintage vibe to it, but again, the lightness, it doesn't feel like a $500 or $600 watch. It feels closer to what you would expect to pay $1,500 to $2,000 from one of these bigger Swiss brands out there.
I totally agree. It definitely has a look of a $1,500 to $2,000, maybe more dollar watch. I would never, if I didn't know anything about watches, it didn't have a name on it. You were just scanning through watches without names on them. I definitely wouldn't have thought you could get this for $500. That is an excellent, excellent looking watch. To be honest, I don't remember ever seeing that watch before we started prepping for this video. And when he showed it to me, I think my first words were, I think I'm going to buy that right now. And of course, Zach slaps me and gets me out of my zone of buying watches and goes, "You can't do that." But at any rate, it's an excellent, excellent watch that I didn't know existed. Which kind of proves a point when you start going down some of these other, when you start looking at pre-owned watches, and you start getting, this is not necessarily the example, but when you start getting into some that aren't currently being made, or maybe they're not in your face all the time, whether it be on YouTube or some of the other sites, it is cool to see what is actually out there. Anyway, you had something else?
Well, I just wanted to assure my Reeds people that I did not slap him and tell him he could not buy that watch. That was for theatrics. That did not happen.
Oh, man. Okay, so the next watch on my list is probably the one that I truly want to purchase the most, if I'm being honest. And it's going to be no surprise the name of it, or the company, the manufacturer of it. This is one that is definitely out of production. This one was, I think, made in
Is this the
the Oris
so I want to say 2001.
2001, so a couple of years back. But it's the Oris Miles
Tonneau.
Tonneau, yeah, that's
Yep.
right. And it's the model numbers is 7539. So we found one on a leather strap. It is a tribute to Miles Davis, which I find is just amazing. It's part of the jazz collection, which, man, once you go down that rabbit hole of Oris's jazz collection, there are just some fantastic watches. To be honest, I haven't seen one yet that I don't want. That's a bad thing. But they're really, really cool watches. We found one for $4.99 with box and papers. The original price, we kind of have to guesstimate just because of the age and everything, but somewhere around $1,300. The movement is the Oris 635, and that is based on the ETA 2836. So you're roughly 38-hour reserve on it, power reserve on it, 39 millimeter case, which fits for most everybody. You know, that's in that sweet spot for pretty much everybody can wear that. 30 meters of water resistant. That's not great, but this is not something you're going to go jump in the pool with either. That's enough to at least get your hands washed or maybe do some dishes and be done with it. But I just love everything about that watch. I love the history of the jazz music, and I also love the history of the jazz collection. Like I said, when you go down that rabbit hole, I suggest you get online and start looking up some of those old the jazz watches. They're gorgeous. I think every one of them are home runs. So
Yeah.
that's my next one. What's yours?
Well, just to make some comments on that one too. I mean, it's an impressive watch. It's got the same case architecture of, my next big watch purchase, which is going to be the Cartier Roadster. And it just screams Art Deco, which of course is something that you really, really enjoy the style of. So,
Yes.
and the date complication, I love a day at 6 and a date a day at 12 and a date at 6. I think it's just a very symmetric dial, and it's an impressive watch. To be able to get into that one for $499. Now, mind you, we did have to lose the box and the papers on that one, but to get into that one at all, I mean, it was just a great opportunity, and it's something a little bit quirky. It's not
Yep.
your typical round watch for sure.
No.
So my next one was the Tissot PRX, the 40 millimeter with the Powermatic 80. I remember I was managing a Reed's in Huntsville. We have two stores there. I was in the one in the indoor mall in town, but we sold Tissot at that store. And I remember when the Powermatic 80 came out, and or the PRX in general, but that was impressive enough. We had people coming in. But then when they came out with the Powermatic 80, which was a little after, initially it was only in quartz, suddenly we just had people coming in on a regular basis. And I want to say that while, yes, the Moon Swatch is probably one of the most revolutionary additions to watches that are being sold in the last like 5-10 years, the PRX really started that and kind of had some of that same thunder. And I can't tell you how often I'll see to this day people come in with a PRX on, and that was their first nice watch. And so great value, or was great value, and it still is. But with these most recent round of price increases, it's up to $850 at retail. I found one for $481, box, papers, the whole 9 yards, and integrated bracelet, quick release bracelet while we're at it. I mean, there's a lot to love there. It's got the Powermatic 80, which again it's actually essentially the same movement as is in the Hamilton that I started out with. So slowed the beat rate down, got yourself to 80 hours of power reserve, and it's just It's a great watch. I know you. I don't think you stop. Is it 2 that you own, or did you?
I own one and my wife owns
There you
one.
go.
So
So
we have the 40 and the other's a 35, I think. And mine, I think it's called the ice blue. I may be wrong. And then hers is also a blue, and which I thought was the same color until we were actually photographing them, which we can throw up. When I realized that's 2 different blues. But yeah, I love them. And honestly, I've told my wife, and my wife has a decent little watch collection now, you know. But I told her, I said, from a distance, I love her PRX on her as far as cosmetics than any other watch that she has. And I love mine too. Actually, I told you tonight because I've had it here in the studio for a while. I said, man, I've got to take that watch home tonight. I've realized I've not wore it in a while, and I'm going to take it home tonight. Probably wear it tomorrow. But I like it. I think you would be very hard pressed, like we were talking about with Hamilton a while ago. The PRX and the Khaki, I mean, those are just 2 watches that, for what they are, they're just really, really hard to beat. And if you can get them under sub 500 and you don't have them, I strongly would recommend throwing that on your short list. Sure, there's going to be somebody out there go, oh, I don't like a PRX. Oh, I don't like a Khaki. That's fine. But for every one of those, you're going to find 100 people that love the watches and for what they are. So to me, the one thing about that bracelet that I will say is it holds its shine and its look, its new look. It holds it way longer than most other watches that I've seen. That's something that I have noticed about it, that it looks fresh and new out the box, especially like if you have someone else wearing it, or even down on your wrist when you glance down. And I don't know why, I have no idea the technical reason why, but it just has that look. Appears to be way longer than what some of your other watches have. So that's just another reason why buying it, you know, pre-owned is just not a big deal at all, in my opinion.
yeah. So Rob, what was your next one?
So if I'm not good at doing impersonations, but if so, I would do my Arnold Schwarzenegger right now. So my next one is my Seiko Arnie. So get all Terminator on you and give me a big, you know, belt-fed machine gun and all that fun stuff. But the Arnie, I absolutely love the Seiko Arnie. I have one. It is just a very, very cool watch. I think that everybody should go grab one of those at some point and put it on their wrist, because when you read the size of it, you think, dear goodness, I'll never be able to wear this watch. It is just way, way, way too big. What I have found is it doesn't wear anywhere close to the size. The size is 47.8 millimeters, and it just doesn't. Like, it to me feels way closer to a 43 or 44, if I'm being honest with you, on how it fits on my wrist. Still a large watch. I mean, if you've got a 6-inch wrist, it's probably, you know, may not be for you, but I will say it's for a lot more people than what some may realize. What I love about it is it's solar powered, so you have, if it is fully charged, you've got 6 months. And how that works is, you know, if you put it in a drawer or something, it kind of stops. The second you pull it out, it goes right back to the regular time. You have a digital and an analog read on it, which is really cool. I also like that for new kids wearing watches, because as they're learning how to read an analog watch, they can also kind of cheat if they're a little bit confused, or at least double check with the digital to see if they're right in reading it. And so I kind of like that tool for younger kids especially. But to me, you know, new, they're about $550. We found one for $429 with the full box. I think it has been discontinued. I'm pretty sure that. I think the Seiko, as of what, we're in October 2025, and it is still available on the Seiko site, because I think they still probably have a little bit of inventory, but it is definitely something that will be disappearing here soon. And I think it was just a great seller for years and years and years. Obviously, movie watch people love it, but even that aside, I really like that watch. It gives you the G-Shock feel and cosmetics, but to me, with a much more refined look. When you're actually just looking at the watch, it looks like, and it is, a more expensive watch that you would wear in place of maybe a G-Shock.
Sure.
And also, if you are somebody that goes hiking or goes out in the woods and you're worried about your battery dying all the time and all that stuff, it is something you don't have to necessarily, if you're going to go on, say, a month-long hike somewhere, which I know that's a small percentage of the population, but I still know a lot of people that do stuff like that. That's a good option for you to get out there with.
And I sorry if I missed this, but I just wanted to highlight it as when fully charged, it's got 6 months
Yeah,
of
6
power
months.
reserve. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Absolutely.
But no, definitely an impressive watch.
Yeah.
It's
Zach will not be wearing them at
I will
Reed, so
not
if you
be.
ever stop in, that will never be on
No.
his watch unless he loses some bet to somebody else. So Barry, if you're watching, I'm just saying, if you want to bet him, that's a good one. He can borrow mine. Uh,
But
but for the person though, for the person that likes
yeah,
that
no,
style,
it is. It's a watch that you notice. It definitely is going to draw attention. It's a big, impressive watch. Not my cup of tea, but it definitely is a impressive watch, and it's got a lot of functionality for the price point for sure.
yep.
So to give my final, number 5 pick, I went with the Maurice Lacroix Pontos Day Date, and Maurice Lacroix, I think, is a brand that honestly probably had more recognition 10 years ago, which is a little bit of a shame because they do put out some really impressive stuff. Their Masterpiece series with their manufacturer movements are, not something to sleep on for sure. But anyway, the Pontos Day Date, again, we went dressy, but just a beautifully done watch. You've got the day complication at 12 o'clock. You've got the date at 6 o'clock. The one that I found had a silver dial on it, and I found it for $396 box and papers. Now, retail on that watch was $2,900 initially. So that really underlines that sometimes you can find some real value out there. So it's got the ML 155 movement, which is based on the ETA 2836. Again, 38-hour power reserve. So it's actually got essentially the same base caliber as was in your Oris as well. But just a neat watch. The one that I found was produced from roughly 2008 until 2017 when they did a redesign on the line. So not sure of the exact year of the one that I found. But again, just nice dressy watch, gives you the opportunity to get into something that maybe is a little higher end than what you would normally find in the sub $1,000 range. And, just a great, easily serviceable watch that should serve you for years to come.
I think that's obviously, if you're looking at just purely from math, that's the best deal on here by a long shot. And it is a beautiful watch. But just to reemphasize what he said, that example shows that you can get a really nice watch that you can be super proud of and not break the bank. Even if you have the money, that doesn't mean you should necessarily go out and spend it on every high-end watch that you want. There's times that if you can get into something like that, that allows you to even purchase a second watch or a third watch. But that's just a beautiful watch for the money. I questioned when he brought that up, because I'm like, he just gave me the wrong number. There's no way that's that inexpensive for what you're getting. But man, great value for the money.
So what we are finding out the hard way here is when we set out and try to do an episode of, hey, pick 5 or pick 10 or whatever else, we always end up having trouble limiting it. So we did have a couple of honorable mentions to throw in as well. Rob, why don't you give us yours?
So as my bonus watch will say, I looked at it something and I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be something that my dad in his 80s could wear, me in my 40s could wear, or my kids in their preteens could wear. And to me, I went with the Timex, the Peanut Sketch. I think it's just a very fun watch. It's part of the Marlin family, which is a very, very, very popular watch for Timex for sure. Found one for $283 box and papers. Once again, it just screams fun. It screams don't take yourself too serious. I think more accountants and lawyers should wear these watches, because I just think if you're just one of those in a mundane back to back to look down and get a laugh and get just a smile on your face, I think is awesome. It's a 40 millimeter case, which fits a lot of people. It's 50 meters water resistance, which is fine for what it is. Once again, we're not going to go in the ocean with it. It does have the M02N movement, and it's got 40 hours power reserve. I think it is just a great fun watch to, if you're taking a family out on the weekend to go out to eat, or like I said, even if you've got some crazy serious job, I think it's a perfect watch for that, to wear every once in a while, just to bring a smile to everybody. I think that just as humans, we should do that every chance we get. And if something as easy as wearing a watch can just kind of crack the ice for someone if they're having a bad day, kind of why not? So I think everybody should have a fun watch. If it's the watermelon watch, if it's a pizza watch, if it's a Looney Tunes, or it's this or that or the other, I think that why not? Why not bring a little bit of humor to? And it's a great watch. By all means, it is a super, super great watch for less than $300.
Yeah, for sure. At that price point, I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yep.
For sure. And Peanuts is such a popular cartoon out there. I know that the manager of our one of our two Huntsville stores absolutely adores Peanuts and collects everything that he can Snoopy. So when we started seeing these trickle out, I'm sure he probably didn't stop at buying one. And they do have way too many versions of it too. They're,
right.
You could buy 15 of them and not have covered all of them.
Right.
So my honorable mention is the Seiko Presage Style60s, specifically the SARY 211. I found it for $406 box and papers, retails at $559, or was. It is discontinued. It was a 40.8 millimeter case with 50 meters of water resistance, and it's got the 4R57 movement with a 41-hour power reserve. But I still think it's just a lot of watch for the money. First off, the style of it. I mean, it is a sharp-looking watch that grabs your attention. You've got a black dial, and then you've got this silver sub-dial down at 6 o'clock. That's actually your date complication. And then on top of that, you actually have a power reserve. So the first time I ever saw the watch, I thought it was a GMT at first, and then I realized that the fourth hand, or fourth central hand, is actually a power reserve indicator. So, quite a bit of complication for something that's less than $600 at retail, but to get it for, just a hair over $400, I mean, ton of value. It's an attention grabber. It's a watch that's going to start complications. It's not like every other, black dial or blue dial watch out there. It does have some character, and I definitely think it's one of the ones that it's a little unfortunate that it's no longer in production, because I would have liked to have seen that one have a long production run.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think it's a deal at $600. For $400, like you said, it's just kind of a no-brainer, considering the complications that you get and the unique complications. These are not just run-of-the-mill that you see everywhere else. We would love for you to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment if you would. Maybe you could tell us, if you had $500 to spend right now on any of the watches that we've said today, what would you buy? And if maybe it's a different watch that you're looking at. We hope that today has given you an opportunity, if you haven't yet, looked at the pre-owned list. There's tons of different areas to do it. At the beginning of the show, Zach mentioned some, and my mind goes back to, I love my white dial Speedmaster, and Zach knows that I want to add a black dial Speedmaster to my collection at some point, and I just missed one just recently on Reed's pre-owned, and I just missed it. It was what it was. I was just a day late, $1 short, I guess. But there are some killer deals out there for those, and at the end of the day, it just allows you to explore more watches than less watches. And, I know there's some people that they're a one watch and done, or some people that only want to buy, the highest end and the new. But for the majority of us that enjoy wearing different watches for different occasions or different complications, don't sleep on the opportunity to get one that has been pre-loved by someone else. Thank y'all so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.